3, 2, 1. Hey.
Wisecracker starting now.
Come all to the Wisecrackers Ice Hockey Arena where we snipe it bar down and we selly hard. We hit the Solani to start things off on this episode here of the NHL segment on Let's Get Crackin. How's everyone doing on this wonderful night? He's Zeke, I am Alec, and boy, this playoff race is heating up. If you don't know how many teams are battling for the President's Trophy race, 7 teams, all separated by 1 point. That's not hyperbole at all. You got the Panthers, Bruins, Rangers, and Canes in the East, the Avs, Stars, and Canucks in the West, but 4 points behind the Avs and Stars are the Winnipeg Jets. So technically you can make it 8 teams fighting for the President's Trophy, but it's still a very tight race, perhaps the tightest that we have ever seen in a playoff race down the stretch. Am I right, Zeke?
Yeah, most definitely. This is probably the tightest president's race I've seen in a long time. Between 6, 7 teams that are really going to be serious about it. It's going to be a wild ride in the next month, trying to see who's going to get it, who's going to fall short, and who's going to stay at this production rate for the whole time. The lowest win percentage is a 674, I believe, which is still crazy because last year, 670 was the ceiling, and now this year it's 690, which is downright insane for any professional hockey team.
It truly is. It feels like when you look at the top teams from both of these conferences, it feels like we're getting a throwback to 2012 because from the East, the top team right now is the New York Rangers. And at the West, you have the Vancouver Canucks, who are not expected to be the top seed in the Western Conference heading into the year, as opposed to 2012 when they were expected to be one of the top teams in the Western Conference. But this feels truly different. But instead of the Sedins, you have Elias Pettersson for Vancouver, and for the Rangers, instead of King Henrik, you have Igor leading the way.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But one thing that we don't have that 2012 also had was more inclusion from teams like Colorado, Dallas, and Florida, instead of the typical who was great at that time, Boston, LA, Tampa-ish, but Tampa's still going to be holding on for quite a while. It's definitely going to be interesting. That 2012 dynamic is one that I never really got to appreciate, but now it's going to be in full swing, and I can't wait to watch it happen.
Oh, it truly is exciting. As we look at one of those top teams in the NHL currently, Colorado on a 9-game winning streak, pushing their way all the way to the top of the Central Division, jumping Dallas, jumping Winnipeg, who we thought that it was going to be between these two for the Central Division crown. Well, Winnipeg seems to be slowing down as of late. They've lost 3 straight heading into tonight and are 5-5-0 in their last 10. Colorado, boy, they are heating up.
Honestly, if you really think about it, the entire West is heating up. A lot of the teams right now are going on win streaks against teams either in the East or in their own divisions and conferences, which is crazy because I watched that St. Louis game yesterday and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time watching them barely lose to Vegas. I think each and every team is starting to figure out that, oh, shit, we're going to miss the mark if we don't keep winning games or if we can't, produce any points. So the adrenaline's definitely going to kick in and make some very entertaining pre-playoff hockey in the next weeks. Very entertaining, actually.
Yeah, especially Nashville is on a 17-game point streak heading into tonight. And that's all ever since that they canceled their tickets for watching U2 at Las Vegas. Can you believe it?
That's crazy. Man, if all it takes was to have your best shot at the playoffs in a decade was just missing U2, I'd definitely take the punch and not watch U2 at the freaking Dome, bro.
I mean,
if that's all it takes, damn, sign me up. I mean, Saros has been shut out. Forsberg is at an astronomical production. Well, not astronomical, but very high production rate. I mean, it's hard to argue about Nashville, even though nobody really saw them coming into the year either, which is crazy.
well, At the highest, I had them as a wild card, but they have a legitimate shot at that 3 seed right now. And with Winnipeg losing, freeze rate being 5-5-0 in their last 10, that's a possibility. Forsberg, he has 39 goals, still as sharp as ever for the Preds. Then you have Vegas, who made their all-in push at the deadline, getting Mantha, Hannafin, and Hurdle. Well, they've been up and down heading into the final stretch of the season. St. Louis and Minnesota are right on their tail, and with Calgary and Seattle essentially out of the picture de facto, not de jure, as they're not mathematically eliminated, but the only two that really pose a threat to Vegas's wild card berth at this point are St. Louis and Minnesota. Though we've had the feeling that it may be St. Louis more so than Minnesota.
Yeah, St. Louis has been playing a lot better hockey in the past few weeks. I've been paying attention to them and more people within our division, and St. Louis is definitely one of those teams that I believe could take Vegas's spot if they try hard enough. Because if you look at their schedule, it's going to be difficult games, but with how they've been handling more difficult games and more difficult situations against better forecheck, better goaltenders, et cetera, they've been playing really stupid well. I'm surprised they haven't actually taken Vegas's spot yet. But you know how the house always wins and paying off the ref pays off. So Vegas moment.
All right, all right. Let's be nice. Let's be nice there, Zeke.
I
I
have
know
no nice words for the Vegas Golden Knights.
I know you don't. But yeah, as of right now, Vegas, at the time that we're recording this, they're currently playing Nashville. So as we check in with that current score line, but the rest of their schedule, Vegas has Winnipeg. They have Minnesota, Vancouver twice, Arizona, Edmonton, Minnesota again, Colorado, Chicago, and Anaheim. St. Louis, on the other hand, they have Calgary, San Jose, Edmonton, Nashville, San Jose again, Anaheim, Chicago, Carolina, Seattle, and Dallas. If it were to be between these two, does St. Louis have a legitimate shot?
In my opinion, they do, but then again, there's also Minnesota in that mix and Vegas. And we know that Vegas can still produce no matter who they are. I mean, all jokes aside, they have a really good forward core. Their defense is great when they're all healthy. They got really great pickups that seem to have helped them and will probably help them. But, you know, it's probably not going to last long there. Like, they're a hard team to beat, and I really wish that St. Louis had higher odds, but I think that Vegas will probably hold on to it. I mean, they have a really difficult schedule, but they could overcome. That's all I'm gonna say. I hope they do. And Minnesota, it's just an abysmal situation when they when people start paying attention to them. Because when they don't pay attention, Kaprizov has historic scoring streaks, point streaks. Brock Faber is having the rookie season that I think should win him Rookie of the Year. I'm over Bedard, honestly. He has almost as many goals and assists as Bedard as a rookie defenseman, might I add. Not a forward, not a wing, defenseman. Minnesota, just stop paying attention to them and you'll figure out why they're killer, honestly. They could. That's all I'm going to say. I don't have any very in depth insight about that, really.
Now, I know St. Louis, everything has been an up and down season for the Blues as they're rather a more streaky team. They win some games in a row, they lose some games in a row. Then they pick up another winning streak, another losing streak. It's back and forth, but it's certainly doable for the Blues considering who they have at the remainder of their schedule. Vegas, they have the tougher schedule, but as of right now, they're overcoming that adversity and trying to hand Nashville their first loss in 18 games, which for a team that's on a hot run, that's special if you're wanting to get right back at the wild card race. Another team that's on the wild card race, here's one that we're not expecting. Washington and their negative 27 goal differential. Where did they come from?
Out of the blue clear sky. I mean, honestly, out of all the teams I expected at the beginning of the year to make the cut, make or at least get to the cut, it was definitely not Washington. Speaking of Washington, very briefly, there is a very influential game going on between them and Detroit to probably secure that spot. And right now, the Red Wings are losing 2-3 on the Capitals with Dylan Strome, McMichael, and Dowd scoring over DeBrincat and Perron. So we got that going. It's a very influential game right now, and I think these two teams should be watched very closely in the coming weeks. But other than that, yeah, I don't know where these guys came from. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. It's they're being fueled on the Russian gas of Alex Ovechkin. I don't know how else to describe him other than generational. Other than maybe Austin Matthews and people that we don't know have yet to come, they're gonna they're gonna be goal scorers of all time, and they're probably the only active ones, along with Sidney Crosby. And yeah, you know what? That's all I can really think of. Sidney Crosby, Ovechkin, and Matthews are going to be the generational goal scorers we're watching unfold right in front of us.
We would include McDavid in this list, though goal scoring, even though he led the league in goals last season, that's not his biggest strength. He's a playmaker first. Though as we speak
Yeah.
of Washington, they and Detroit, they're going out in the wild card race. We initially were expecting teams like Detroit and Buffalo to compete for a wild card spot. And Buffalo has disappointed, and Detroit, they had that promising start, but the foot is off the gas pedal.
Well, foot being off the gas pedal can be attributed to a lot of things. There have been a few injuries, such as, well, not anymore, but when Larkin was out, that was pretty bad. They lost their captain for a few days. Their play rating has been slightly declining. They've been allowing a lot of stuff that wouldn't usually go through earlier in the year go through now, like just random breakaways, forecheck, not even giving up, just getting overpowered, I'd say. It's an interesting situation, but I think that if they do put that foot back on the gas and Patrick Kane remembers that, oh, the playoffs are at stake, then I think we're going to go from 0 to 60 pretty freaking fast. Yeah, Detroit, Washington, and maybe the Islanders, but I don't see the Islanders being led by Patrick Waugh. It's going to be interesting if they even do climb up 2 spots to get anywhere.
I mean, Ilya Sorokin is there, but outside of him, the offense is clicking for them. The defense has been surprisingly rather slow for them. It's a shock considering the Islanders are a more defensive team. Now we're seeing them as
Yeah.
an offensive team, and the results are still the same for them.
I know Islanders fans weren't happy during the trade deadline, not getting anyone more offensive, not getting anyone that could provide more offense to their defensive masterclass of a team. But like they're very defensive. They have an extremely good goalie. I'm surprised they're not anywhere higher like they were last year, because I think with like the current playoff climate, they could maybe beat Philadelphia, but Carolina, New York,
No.
shred them to pieces. It's an unfortunate situation because when the Islanders do good, hockey is much better, is what I've heard. But those are New Yorkers who are talking, so I don't
I
I
mean,
don't give into that too much.
well, the other New York team is faring a lot better. Yeah, the Rangers,
Yeah,
that is. Yeah, especially no Keto, no Wheeler, no problem for them. You got the bread man that's rolling for them.
Artemi Panarin.
Yeah. So, with that said, if we're gonna crown a regular season champion for winning the President's Trophy, which one of these 7 teams, or 8 if you include Winnipeg, has the best case?
Best case. Well, for bias reasons,
Maybe.
for unbiased reasons, what are the Rangers' next few games? Philadelphia, Colorado. Ooh, yeah, this is a tough schedule for them. Then they go Philadelphia, Colorado, Arizona, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Detroit, Montreal, New York Islanders, Philly, Islanders. Well, not as tough as their next 3 games, but still, nonetheless, I think they could probably win those games. And if they hold on long enough, it's definitely going to be hard to beat them in that race. Another very different look I have at it, Vancouver, just because they put their foot on the gas this season and they just never let up. They're consistent 90 miles an hour this whole year. Pedersen proving that he was a very underrated, undermined talent last year per se, with everybody doubting Vancouver's offseason and future hopes, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think Florida will make the cut. Colorado, maybe. Colorado might have the best chance in the West, in my opinion, other than Vancouver, sheerly because they have the best top four lines in the West, in my opinion. It's going to be hard to play them in the playoffs or even in general, which is why I'm terrified of the being a Stars fan, especially if we make it past the first round, which right now would either be against Winnipeg or Nashville if Nashville can get it done tonight.
There's a 3-point difference between Winnipeg and Nashville, but it feels like it's getting smaller every day.
Yeah, the Predators definitely are closing in, and Winnipeg is cooling down for some reason. In their last 10, it's been like 5-4-1, 5.
Yeah,
What's the
5-5-0.
Yeah, 5-5-0 in their last 10 with 3 losses in a row, which isn't very typical of a team about ready to speed up for the playoffs, but it'll definitely be interesting. But the other teams such as Carolina, Dallas, and Boston, I think they'll still hold on, but I don't think they'll have the points to get anywhere near the top. Well, Carolina potentially. Carolina is a team that nobody really suspected coming into the year, being a second round exit. I can't remember what they did in the offseason, if they did anything in the offseason.
I mean,
But then
Michael Bunting, Dmitry Orlov, Tony DeAngelo.
it was a very split ideology about whether the Canes would even come back next year or if they would just be secretly good. And I think the secretly good part really came out, and they're chugging through this whole ordeal. It's going to be stupid hard to stop them with how they've been playing recently. Even with that,
Getting Gensel.
yeah, Gensel. They're 8-1-1 their last 10, which is still impressive. The only teams that really have that bragging right now to have 8 wins is Dallas, them, Colorado. Not even like New York or Vancouver has that. It's Carolina, Dallas, and Colorado, which is a strange combination of teams, but it's right there. They're all doing really well. They're getting really hot, and I really like it when they all do good. I'm a Rod Brendamore stan.
Oh, yeah. When the Hurricanes are good, is also good for hockey because, loudest house in hockey, as they say, with all their passionate fans around. Though, best chance for President's Trophy, in my opinion, you do have a legitimate case for Carolina. I can also see Colorado happening out the Western Conference. I'm not going to downplay the Rangers or the Canucks, but I like the Canes and Avs' chances better with how they're rolling, going hot down for the stretch with 10 and 11 games to go in the season for the two of these teams, respectively. Plus, with how they're near flawlessly meshing their lines together. Put Gensel with Aho and Jarvis. That's a good first line and four pair. Not pair, but a trio. That's what I meant to say because it's a forward trio. Because Gensel, you have the offensive presence. He can either set up plays or score. He can do both of them under the tutelage of Sidney Crosby. Aho, another big name goal scorer for Carolina. You have those two out there. You have two guys who know how to score. Then you have Svechnikov, Kuznetsov, and Natchez on that second line. That's a dangerous trio as well. Then the bottom six, that's more of the defensive identity of the team. Same
Yeah.
way of how Colorado's structured. You have the offensive firepower on the first two lines, and you have the bottom two lines being a more defensive structure. Carolina and Colorado, they're different in defensive philosophies, but they're still deadly in their respective rights on defense.
Yeah, definitely. I could see where you're coming from. And what's interesting to me is how Carolina's been utilizing their defensive lines as well, because they're like 1-2, 1-2, one defensive, one offensive, one defensive, one offensive. And whenever there's a line change and they can tell their forecheck is breaking down, it's send out the offensive, send them out, send them out. Like you can see how urgent that they also focus on defensive line changes along with offensive line changes, which is something you don't see a ton because normally it's like get the forwards out, then change the defenseman. They're like change with them. It's an interesting dynamic that I love to see, honestly. Yeah, along with Brent Burns, homie Brent Burns. Please win the Stanley Cup. Don't let the Sharks' legacy die in vain.
So stay tuned, everyone. This is going to be an exciting finish all the way to the finish line of the regular season. In 1 month, we'll have the Stanley Cup playoffs. Hey, Zeke. I'm Alec. Thank you for tuning in to this NHL segment of Let's Get Crackin'. We'll see you next time around. Peace.